You read the title correctly. Bournemouth fans hate Leeds. But last week there was something that ignited the rivalry, if you want to call it that, and well, it made the relationship between the two sets of fans a little bit more tense, let's put it that way. But why the outrage? Do all Bournemouth fans feel this hatred? How did it escalate so badly last week? And whatever the reason, surely this has got to be water under the bridge now. Well, in this video, we're going to explore exactly that. Just over a week ago, a small selection of Bournemouth fans were up in arms after the fixture computer spat out a certain game at a specific time of year, which caused tension on Twitter, fury on Facebook, and irateness on Insta. Is that a word? Irateness? It is now. People were not too happy about it, and as a result of the outrage, police were contacted, a number of local and national publications covered the story, and new memes were coming out every 2 minutes, with the footballing world revelling in the pandemonium that was occurring on the south coast. The fixture in question was Bournemouth at home versus Leeds on a bank holiday. Leeds on a bank... Ooh. I'll explain more. Well, firstly, let me just say we're not the only fan base to not take a liking to the Elland Road outfit. Cue montage. A selection of YouTube's finest videos there. But are they really hated that much? Well, if I just go onto Google and start typing it in... there it is, just under Liverpool. Leeds, see? It's a thing. People do not like them. And as you saw from said montage, there are a number of fan bases who seem to have this opinion as well. Much of the domestic hatred for the club harks back to the 1960s-70s era, when Leeds became a dominant force in English football under Don Revie. In an era where many teams were still prepared to allow an attacking ebb and flow to a game, Revie taught his team how to strangle the tactical life out of opponents he had scouted thoroughly. Many neutrals in football, and the media, didn't like it. They roughhoused the teams they played, their style was purposeful, and Revie himself, while tactically he was ahead of his time, would also use old school manoeuvres like flooding the pitch to try to outwit the opposition. There was a win-at-all-costs approach from Leeds that created enemies and undoubtedly led to the Dirty Leeds tag. But why Bournemouth? Why have Bournemouth got an issue with Leeds? They've not even played in the same division that much. Why the hatred? Well, their leads into my next... No? I thought it was quite good. Along with the success on the pitch for Leeds United, they also had one of the most notorious firms in English football, the Leeds United service crew. Supporters of other teams feared them, and the mainstream media had in the past highlighted several bloody violent fights that they'd been involved in. But for us, one of the incidents happened in 1990 down at a sunny Dean Court as the Whites were looking to get promoted back into the top flight from the second division. And, pending a win, it would simultaneously send Bournemouth back down to the third tier. On a sunny bank holiday, you'd hope it would be a friendly festival of football, but sadly, it was anything but. Despite warnings from Dorset police about potential violence and the Leeds chairman not wanting it to be played on a bank holiday, the game went ahead, and it resulted in scenes that would leave a lasting impression on English and European football. Now, before the game, notorious hardman and Leeds midfielder, in that order, Vinnie Jones said,
"We want a turning point in this club's history in two things. One, to say, right, Leeds United fans can behave themselves, and the other one to say, Leeds United are back in the first division. Let's hope they stay there."
Sadly, it didn't quite pan out that way. On the night before the match, people were throwing bricks at windows, attacking people, deck chairs had been set alight and beach huts forcibly opened, while shops had been looted with windows smashed. On the day itself, it was all hell let loose. We'll say the word fans very loosely in the next couple of minutes here, but there were Leeds fans everywhere. They were after Cherries fans' tickets, they were coming up to them, harassing them, there were police on horses charging up and down the car park, there were stones being thrown, there were charging fans, they were climbing on the poplar trees that were outside the old stadium, throwing bricks down and running along the top of the roof of the stadium. They even turned the BBC radio car over. Now, in amongst the pandemonium, somehow the game got started, and on the pitch, Lee Chapman got the vital goal between the two sides, giving Leeds the title and a return to the top top flight. However, there was chaos off the field and there was £1 million worth of damage. The game felt like a sideshow, really. There were at least 120 arrests made, and the police camera's footage led to further arrests later on. It was mayhem. There were Leeds fans jumping all over the vice president's car. They smashed the windows, they damaged the paintwork, they looted the contents, and they scarpered off. And in one of the lesser but still rank crimes, one fan even dropped his pants and had a crap where he stood. That's not very nice. Still, the toilets at Dean Court were quite bad. And look, this sounds like a relentless stream of negativity, but we're going to add some perspective both here and later on in the video. So amongst this tirade of Leeds bashing, it has to be said that there were a number of Leeds regulars who went home and away, and they didn't really recognise many of the faces that were causing the issues. One fan, in an article from Peter Rutzler on The Athletic, said the vast majority were well behaved, but out and about it was really bad. It felt like every idiot had thought, we'll have a bit of fun down there. We got into the stadium as early as we could because it was the safest place to be. So yeah, a match that should have seen celebratory scenes was overshadowed by bleak and unsavoury nastiness from away supporters, and it came at a time when UEFA was still considering whether to end the English exile from European action after 5 years. Eek, not good. So after it all calmed down, Leeds resisted calls from some in Bournemouth for them to foot part of the bill for the damage, insisting that much of the violence was beyond their control, although they did say they were sorry. Which was nice. Anyway, given the concerns amongst the local police force, Bournemouth were not allowed to play a fixture on a bank holiday Monday for many years thereafter. Many years. 17 years later, in fact, one Leeds fan went back to Bournemouth when the Whites returned there for the first time since 1990, and it was a League One fixture. On this occasion, Bournemouth successfully asked that the game be staged in midweek and enlisted numerous police dogs lining them across the pitch at full time. On the way there, the coach, which the aforementioned fan was travelling in, got pulled over by the police, and an officer came on the bus. He was in his 50s to 60s and gave Leeds fans a warning about what would happen if there was any messing. There was no reason for it, but you got the impression that he hadn't forgotten or forgiven. And this is just it. Now, 32 years later, some fans of a certain vintage have not forgotten. Hence last Thursday, when the fixture list was revealed for the 22-23 season, where a small section of supporters voiced their disapproval at the timing of the fixture versus the Whites, which is scheduled on a bank holiday weekend. But here's the thing. A large number of Bournemouth fans, whilst they cannot quite forget, are willing to forgive and move on. So as you can tell, there is a difference of opinion even within a fan base. Therefore, last week the issue needed to be approached delicately with a fair bit of composure, respecting those affected, but also acknowledging, maybe reluctantly, that times have changed. So any comments on the matter needed to be thought out carefully. Step forward, Cherries Trust. Now, if you've not heard about them, they're a supporters group which has the capability of playing an important role for Bournemouth fans. Indeed, independent supporters associations are important, and if the fan-led review into football governance is implemented, they're going to be even more important. Anyhow, a key part of the role is to empathise and act on concerns and fears of supporters. Its purpose is to amplify any problems that fans experience to ensure that the right action will be taken. But another part of the role, though, is to fully understand the nature of all concerns that they're presented with and act in a manner which will neither antagonise nor exacerbate any given situation. On this occasion, though, they publicly screenshotted communications with Dorset Police on a hastily posted tweet from an Android phone, and this sadly has done the opposite of what they wanted to achieve. It took the concerns of a small section of Bournemouth fans and raised the volume to the extent that it looks like all Cherry supporters feel the same way. They don't. What it's probably done as a result is actually raise tensions and possibly increase any nervousness for the small group of supporters that still are affected from the events of 1990. What they perhaps should have done is act quickly but discreetly, as they could have given complainants the comfort of knowing that the issue is being dealt with by the relevant authorities without fanfare, public scrutiny and also ridicule. Of course, it's patently important to respect any issues that AFC Bournemouth fans face, and yeah, perhaps it is right that the fixture timing should be changed, and I'm sure that'll be looked into. However, it would also be foolish to not acknowledge that the majority of Leeds fans are united with Cherry supporters in their condemnation of the problems of 1990, and have shown a desire to move on from the issues for which their name seems to be continually tainted. At some stage in the future, we'd like to think that everyone's dislike for Leeds will be based on footballing reasons only. Understandably, for some, that's not quite possible. We get it. But what we can do is simply deal with the issues in ways which don't increase any underlying tension or cause ridicule for the swathes of supporters that just want to move on, as most do. Now, publications like the Yorkshire Post have now written a number of articles about it, and it's even made national publications such as the bastion of British journalism, the Daily Star? Yeah, the Daily Star. But either way, the tone is one of ridicule. Now, in a well-worded and reasoned response, the Leeds United Supporters Trust said, "We're very surprised that the Bournemouth Trust haven't made any direct contact with us. Whilst we of course appreciate there may be anxieties around the timing of this fixture, given what happened 30 years ago, we don't think it's constructive for the assumption to be that anything like that will happen again. And we've subsequently played Bournemouth on numerous occasions since, and the game had totally different circumstances surrounding the fixture. The Trust, along with Leeds United, have made great strides in trying to shed the stigma around Leeds fans, and comments like this are not helpful." A delicately answered response there, which responds to a similarly delicate issue. This is a supporters trust that is in tune with its fans, and something that Bournemouth supporters are now desperately looking for from its own independent supporters association. Just as an aside, given the recent condemnation of Cherry's Trust, it is perhaps understandable why they're keen to highlight their activity to ensure it's being seen as value for money. They're often bombarded on Twitter by fans asking them to prove what they do to justify the £10 a year membership, and on this occasion they decided to publicise their communications with the hope of both allaying the fears that some supporters presented, whilst also looking to prove itself as a credible and hard-working trust. Alas, after last week's misplaced tweets, it didn't really work too well, did it? To be honest, I can't help but laugh at some of the comments that emanated from both Bournemouth and Leeds fans as a result of said tweet. Obviously, you get some faceless wind-up merchants who say they're looking forward to coming down and having part 2 of the Leeds invasion of Bournemouth, but we all know, I hope, that it is merely Twitter banter. It's not nice to read though. Most people, however, do acknowledge and apologise for the mistakes of the past with the intent of moving forward, playing games against each other in the future without any problems. And indeed, back to what the Leeds Trust said, one of their points was actually that we have played them a number of times since without any issues. And to be fair, they're right. Haven't played on a bank holiday though. Would it be any different? The truth is, I suspect that even if it was to go ahead, there would probably be no issues, but sometimes just a bit of sensitivity is needed. So whilst we fully respect the thoughts and concerns of fans who still remember it, we have had fixtures since on sunny, not necessarily bank holiday weekends, against equally hard fan bases. For instance, Millwall at the end of the season, who could have been perhaps angry and frustrated at the lack of playoff football after our 1-0 win against them. They travelled up though, and they went home without any significant issues. Things have moved on. Video surveillance has improved, fans and authorities work together to root out known troublemakers, and the general culture in football has largely shifted to merely slinging shit at each other on Twitter. Plus, as mentioned, Leeds have been working hard to repair their reputation. And as such, younger Whites fans, who are the new generation of supporters at Ellen Road, have invariably met the drama last week with reactions of mirth and ridicule, and it's created an impression of Bournemouth fans that quite simply isn't really there. Hopefully a lot of them might be able to understand the concerns of Cherry supporters that were affected by it though. Yes, it is something to be taken very seriously, but thanks to some hasty tweets, it all came out very, very wrong. With pressure, it looks like the game might actually get moved, and maybe the Cherries Trust can look upon it as a victory when that day comes. Let's face it, to be honest, Sky will probably change the fixture to a midweek anyway. You know it. However, we do need to stress that most Bournemouth fans just want to crack on and support their team. We already get ridiculed online for having a town full of pensioners, Tin Pot Stadium and all the other Twitter bingo put down, so we probably don't need anything more to add to the mix. Lack of football really does do funny things to people, doesn't it? When the season's finished, there's no Summer World Cup and England have been playing absolutely shite, so at least there's something on Twitter to keep us entertained, eh? Sadly for us, it just made us look a little bit silly, but with a bit of context behind the story, hopefully Leeds fans can understand that while some sections were upset, they can see that one out of context tweet didn't necessarily represent the fan base as a whole. We are two very individual clubs with checkered and glittered histories at the same time in different ways, and as fan bases, we're just interested in watching both of our sides smash each other on the pitch with the intention of bragging about it while overusing the crying with laughter emoji. God, I see that all the time, it's annoying. So view this video how you will. A handshake, a history lesson, or even a way to appease both sets of supporters. But if anything, it goes to highlight that whilst the tragedies and misdemeanours of the past should be respected, we are on the whole united in our aims of pushing forward with demonstrating that we're both better than each other on the pitch and on the pitch only, because anything outside of the boundaries of football, well, it doesn't really prove jack, does it? Football, we all love it. Bring on August. This summer break is just lasting too long already.